you gave me, which I never should have accepted in the first place, not when there are still these secrets between us. Until I have gone back to the place where it all started and told you everything, I cannot wear your ring or call myself your wife. You know the basic facts, but I have never filled in the details. I haven't even told you about Plainfield. You still think I grew up in Minneapolis, and when you ask why I never take you home, I tell you Minnesota has nothing to do with who I am now. I left when I was 18, built a new life for myself, and have never looked back. For a long time, I convinced myself this was the case. Abba has kept quiet as well, even though my father has met you on numerous occasions. He doesn't think it's his place to say anything, but I know he disapproves of my reticence. I remind him of her. Once while searching through my desk drawer for a pen, you found the old family portrait I keep. Amma is wearing a blue silk sari and her hair is loose and long. You told me my mother was beautiful and that I look like her. I took the photo from your hands and tucked it back into the drawer under a pile of papers. No, I don't, I said. I went back to my sketching, even though I felt a swell of pride and longing at your words. It is no secret that I have been writing back and forth to India for years, though whenever you asked whom I was corresponding with, I lied and said it was a lonely relative I felt sorry for, nobody significant. When I called on the phone, I made sure you were not around to hear the conversation. If I had told you the truth, then the whole story would have had to come out. But once you asked about my mother, do you ever write to her or call her? When I answered no, that was not a lie. This letter that I received the other day was from a person in India whom I have not seen or heard from since that long-ago summer, but I immediately recognized the handwriting in the old-fashioned aerogram-stamped par avion, and I had to sit down on the bench in the lobby. The doorman asked if I wanted a glass of water. I drank the water, went upstairs, and locked myself in my little art studio with its paint-splattered walls. I sat on the floor and read the letter. I read it over and over again. That night I dreamed I was in a garden surrounded by shriveled, coal-black flowers. The only hint of color was in the branches of a giant tree studded with red blossoms, an Ashoka tree. My mother was sitting underneath it dressed in the white cotton of a widow. Amma, I called out, and she stood up and began moving toward me. Her face seemed not to have aged. She could not have been much older than I am now, but her body had shrunk to skin and bone. As she came closer, I stretched out my arms, but she glided past me as if I were invisible. I turned to find her leaning over the edge of an old stone well sheathed in moss. It took me a moment to realize what was about to happen, but when I opened my mouth to scream, "No!" it was already too late. She had dived off the edge and in a fluttering arc of white, disappeared into the well. I ran over and looked down into the hole, hoping to catch another glimpse, but she was gone, swallowed up by the dark water. I woke up and booked a flight to India right then and there. I met you for dinner later that night, but I of course kept my trip and my dream a secret, like so many other things. It has been this way between us since the beginning. Not long after we met in drawing class, our first year, you told me about your parents' divorce and of your conflicted relationship with your father, who left when you were a child, and how you had vowed never to be like him. I listened and nodded, and my heart pulsed with the first stirrings of love, even though I hardly knew you then. Still, I could not share my own story. As much as I wanted to tell you everything, I was paralyzed. Keeping secrets had become second nature, an inheritance passed down from mother to daughter like an heirloom. But one night, the night of our big fight, you refused to let the subject of Amma drop. You kept asking questions. What was she like? Where does she live? Why don't you speak? Is she even alive? I got that panicked feeling that used to plague me as a young girl during piano recitals, sitting on the hard bench with my foot trembling on the pedal and my fingers forgetting their hours of practice. I gave a few vague, stumbling answers about how she had gone back to India when I was young, and she was no longer in my life, and that was that. But you were not satisfied. Look, obviously this is something that still bothers you a lot. Why won't you talk to me? Maybe I can help. You placed a hand on my shoulder and something inside me closed up. There's nothing to talk about, I said, and changed the subject. We made stilted conversation over dinner, and then I excused myself and left early. After that night, I avoided you for a week, turning